And good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, uh, wherever you may be in the world today. We're really excited to have you here for one of our next kind of Meet the EIR sessions. And today, we have the privilege to introduce you to somebody who has actually been on your side of the table, so to speak. And so, what I mean by that is Ryan is not only one of our entrepreneurs in residence, he recently joined us a few months ago, but how Ryan and I originally connected was Ryan was one of the co-founders of a DMZ alumni growth genius that went through our accelerator program. Was it 2017 or 2018, Ryan? I'm
It
trying
was
to
2017 summer.
2017. And so, 4 years ago, Ryan was on your side of the table in the sense of, getting to not only go through the DMZ program with his startup, but getting the experience of, sitting through workshops, attending EIR sessions, and really kind of getting himself immersed in the community. And for us, when we look at, an ideal EIR, I think not only kind of having the experience of, running your own company is something that's hugely invaluable, but also having that experience of going through a program. And I think, Ryan is able to bring that, unique perspective of, getting the coaching, getting the feedback from mentors and being able to implement that. And then, of course, in addition to that, Ryan also has some experience working at a large corporate. I don't want to spoil too much of the introduction, Ryan. I'll leave a little bit of that up for you to get to go into. But Ryan, we're really excited to have you here today. And of course, like all the other sessions, for all of you, if you have any questions, anything like that, feel free to kind of raise your virtual hand, throw it in the chat, and we'll either get to it during the presentation or we'll, I'm sure, have some time at the end to go into any more questions. But Ryan, thanks again for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here, and over to you.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Shane. I saw some issues with connecting to audio flashing on the bottom here for me. Just want to make sure you all can hear me okay. Okay, great. So today's session is going to be a little bit of sort of like an intro of how I have been and can continue to help some of the cohort companies. I'm really excited for you all. This is a really cool journey. And when we went through this in 2017, I think our company almost doubled in revenue throughout this process, which was really exciting for us. And we're lucky to have the DMZ as part of our alumni family. So I think the plan for today is just give you a little heads up about who I am and tell you where I can help and then where I can't. So there's obviously not, I'm obviously not great at everything. I wish I could say that. My mom tells me I am, but I don't know, it's not true. And then we can talk through a little bit about some of the processes that I've built in the past for Growth Genius, as well as some of the cohort companies that I'm helping, and take some of the things that I learned along the way at Salesforce and some of the other companies I've worked at. And then we can go into some questions if you'll have any, but feel free to jump in at any time and ask in the chat. I'm sure Shane or Tika can help moderate some of that. So a little bit about me. My journey in sales started off like most people's do. I don't think a lot of people go to university thinking, I want to be a salesperson and that's my dream. Some do, but most people choose it by not thinking they can do much else and kind of landing into it. So I didn't really have much belief in myself. Luckily landed at a place in Salesforce where there was a cool process, there was some competition, there was a pyramid of people above me who had been in my shoes, and a lot of role models there that I could look up to, and was kind of looked at as the world's mecca of sales. So I got awesome training there. I learned a lot, got a few promotions, played the game really, really well. But after a couple of years, felt that it was time to, spread my wings. And I had a couple of friends that had asked me to come join a company with them to build out a process for like replacing a BDR at a small business, which would be, imagine you're a VP of sales and you showed up to work and there were 10 meetings on your calendar, but you hadn't done anything to get those meetings. That was the idea that Growth Genius grew on. It worked pretty well in 2017. I know that like most of you are getting spammed with LinkedIn bots right now, and I think Growth Genius has a small part to play in creating that madness, but it was a different world in 2017. So after a couple of years of doing that, the product roadmap wasn't really as strong as it needed to be. And they went back to the drawing board a little bit to build out the product and pause a little bit on sales. And some of my work that I had built out I couldn't continue doing at the pace that I wanted to, and I got called back to go to Salesforce in a really much more senior strategic role, working on growth strategy for a 500-person business unit. So all of the US selling to SMBs. Worked on some really cool growth projects, like how we should structure hiring, how we should think about enabling reps, how we can figure out how to make them more productive sooner, how we can price and package our solutions to be more competitive with the SMB solutions out there like HubSpot and Zendesk, so things like that. And did that for about 2 years. And now I have been off work for about 4 months and doing some consulting, doing a lot of reading, riding my bike, spending more time with my family. My parents are getting older, so I'm taking some time to do that. And here we are. Really excited about the time I've been spending with the DMZ companies to keep the sword sharp and learn a lot about some of the smartest people in Toronto are doing. So here's where I can help. I'm quite strong at helping conceptualize a sales process from zero, saying, these are how we think we get customers. Here's how we can sort of build a process to get there. Here's how we can fine tune it. Here are the things you need to look out for. And here's some of the mistakes that you can avoid. Really strong in reviewing talk tracks and tone and style in a sales deck and helping craft the story that you're trying to tell when you pitch to either enterprises or small businesses or consumers. A lot of you are doing most of the selling yourselves right now. So thinking about how to hire and onboard salespeople is always a challenge. Trusting people with, the most important part, revenue generation, is always tricky. And then coaching on sales calls and figuring out how to get inside the minds of your buyer, as well as reviewing pitch decks, and the story around that is something that I can typically help with. Where I don't think I'm strongest and where you should presumably look for another EiR is B2C. Now I can speak to it, but I'm not an expert. There are stronger folks here in the DMZ that can help with that. And alongside that, I think go really closely is paid ads and social media strategy. So I can talk to it, but there are better folks here that the DMZ has partnered with to help you in that respect. And then obviously product strategy and financing are not my forte. So I think we can get into the presentation. Just some assumptions for today is that you're at least getting a few leads a week. You know what your product is and who it's for. You have at least one customer, and you're trying to build out a process to grow and scale with as little friction as possible, so you can make sales less of a headache and more of an exciting prospect for the business going forward. So this is something that I think a lot of people resonate with. B2B selling can be pretty convoluted. I think in order to structure things from the top, you're scrambling, trying to respond to your prospects' every need. But it's difficult to figure out how much time and when to do things like researching leads or list building or calling versus emailing, how much to personalize, sending Calendly invites and booking time takes so much effort. Do we connect with them on social emails? If we don't get a response, when do we add them back into the funnel and all that kind of stuff? So the idea for this is to sort of like simplify how you'd go about building out a process that works for you. And I'm not saying that this will work for everybody, but I think it's important to think about breaking it down into stages. And something that's worked for me in the past is to think about each one of these buckets as its own individual challenge, and then focusing a percentage or a portion of your time or energy or resources into each one of these stages in the sales cycle. And obviously, as you move forward through the 1 to 6, the likelihood of a deal closing increases. So how can we think about optimizing the prospecting function, how we connect with them once we get a response, how we run discovery calls to gather information, how we demonstrate our product solves the problems that they're looking for, how we negotiate on a mutual handshake that makes sense for both parties, and then how we get across the finish line. So if we think about prospecting, really it comes down to 4 things. Who are we messaging? What are we saying to them? When are we saying it? And how are we improving on our results? So how are we optimizing in a recursive function to continue the feedback loop and always get better? So the goal here would obviously be to build a process that creates strong relationships that feel personalized, but at the same time allows you to scale. So people involves who your persona is. Are you messaging CFOs? It's going to be a totally different strategy than if you're messaging marketing. You're going to be thinking about who your target customer is and what they care about. Finance folks care about totally different KPIs at a company than marketing folks. Is it about saving money? Is it about generating leads? So figuring out what your prospect cares about, building a list to make sure that you're not wasting time sending emails to people who may be interested but will never buy. And then what the message says goes alongside with that. So figuring out how to personalize a message that is meaningful to them. Personalization does not just mean, hi, name, I see you work at company name. That is very 2012. So personalization goes a lot deeper than that, and thinking about how you can research them on LinkedIn, how you can scrape the website for tidbits of information, how you can find relevant customers who they may have, can really help optimizing the message. And then figuring out when to send the message based on things like, have they just raised money? Or is it in the morning and are they more likely to be at their computer? Or is it a Monday or a Friday? There's a ton of research that suggests there's optimal times to send messages. But then also from an optimization standpoint, you may see that your IT buyer, for example, is responding better in the morning than in the afternoon. So you should start sending all your emails in the morning because you may have a 1.5% response rate instead of a 0.7% response rate. And that's doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really 2x optimization. So thinking about how to continuously optimize your prospecting function will help to make things run more smoothly. Shane, I don't know if there's any questions coming in at all, but I'm not really seeing the question thing. So if any time, just feel free to stop me, okay?
Will do, don't worry.
Awesome. And then once we actually get a response, somebody says they may be interested, somebody says, I don't know if I'm interested. How do you figure out the best way to actually get them on the phone, get them in front of your product, right? So if you get a response, you're way more likely to get them on the phone if you respond back within 5 or 10 minutes. So if you see a response during business hours, it's almost like a stop everything and respond type of situation. I know a lot of founders are trying to block their calendars for certain events, certain types of tasks. And they may say, sales is for Wednesdays. Prospecting is 1 hour a day from 9 to 10 on Monday. But you may be shooting yourself in the foot there. If you get a response on Tuesday afternoon and you don't respond back to them until Wednesday afternoon, you may have lost them at that point. They may have lost interest. They may have responded to 20 other emails. So if you see the email, try and get that call on the calendar as quickly as possible. If they do respond to your email and they say, I don't know if this is for me, maybe talk to me in 3 months, ask for a phone call just to help them understand what they're saying no to, or to make sure it's even worth your time or worth their time to have that call later. I would say that early on, startups think that every phone call is a good use of time, but you're being way more productive if you get to a no quickly. It's inevitable that you will get no's. So the faster that you can get to a no, the faster that you can work on other things. And I know that a lot of folks will have people in their pipeline that have been, saying, in 3 months, talk to me again in a month, talk to me again in a month. And we call those tire kickers. And figuring out if there's a way to actually disqualify them and say, shit or get off the pot, may be a useful strategy, because one can save you time if they say no, but oftentimes it puts pressure on them to say that you're not going to be messed around with, and it's in their best interest to get in touch with you, or else you're not going to be around. It's sort of like a quote unquote ultimatum. So I always prefer doing this over the phone versus email. You get so much more in terms of nonverbal communication and instant feedback on how things feel when you call. So I would always opt for a phone call if you can. I know that calling is scary, but it's how you get the best, I guess, value for your time, which is paramount for all of us here.
And
the other thing,
we got one question from me and one question from the group, Ryan. So first one is, I know a lot of founders kind of feel awkward about calling, maybe 10 minutes after response, maybe they think it's creepy. How would you look at something like that? Is it creepy to respond right away if you get that response within 10 minutes?
I think it's only creepy if you feel if you make it creepy. If you qualify it by saying, I just got your email back and I thought it would make more sense to call and to save you some time rather than going back and forth, you're doing it for them. So it just has to not seem self-interested. I don't think it's creepy at all.
Okay, perfect. And then, on the point of follow-ups, we have a question from the group. And so is it best to follow up with a short, not reestablishing what you said in your previous email, or should you be saying something like, did you see my previous email?
Is that in the event of like you send a first reach out and they don't respond back and you're trying to send a second follow-up? Okay, I see a nod there. So we can get into the subject of like optimizing email campaign strategy and how you should follow up if you don't get a response. But generally, I would never send a follow-up saying just checking in or just bumping up my last message. Every time you reach out to a prospect, there's an opportunity to share new information and give them value. So rather than asking them for something that's self-interested, like, did you see my email because I want to talk to you, saying, hey, I was thinking about you because of XYZ, or I saw this article that reminded me of you, or I wanted to share this with you because some of the customers that we've worked with recently since I last reached out have found it valuable. So Gary Vaynerchuk has a famous book that kind of put him on the map and got him a lot of flack for being so, I guess, selfless in giving out content for free. And the book is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And what that typically means is your best chance of getting a customer or a deal in the social era is by continuously offering value, giving things away for free, giving your time away for free, giving resources away for free. So psychologically, your prospects feel indebted to giving you something back once you ask for it. So it's almost like a killing them with kindness strategy. So I wouldn't think about following up, asking for time, or asking if they saw the last email. I would use it as an opportunity to share more of what makes your company great. And then the last point here is just the illusion of scarcity. I know a lot of folks struggle with this, and trying to keep control of your calendar and owning your time is paramount. But at the same time, when a customer responds, early stage founders, they're always like, oh, this is awesome. I need to figure out any way possible to get this person on the phone. So they say, I'm available next week at any time, any place. Just give me a call and we'll make it happen. But imagine the difference in how you're perceived if you say that versus, I have time on Tuesday or Wednesday between 3:30 and 4. Please pick one and I'll send a calendar invite. Immediately the prospect thinks, oh, this person's busy and he has a lot of other folks to talk to. I'm going to make sure I pick one of those slots because it sounds like every single other one of his time slots this week is full. So obviously the goal here is to remove the friction between getting a response and getting a meeting. I know a lot of you folks probably struggle with seeing a response and then actually getting them on the phone. You want to, put processes in place and strategies in place that get that to like a 90-95% clip. It's never going to be perfect. People are always going to fall off the radar, but this is free money you're missing out on. Okay, once we get them on the phone, we need to learn about their business to make sure that we have a fit for them. So I'll give a little bit more detail on upfront contracts, but the idea here is to gather as much ammo as possible to effectively sell what you have and minimize the chance that they'll back out later on. And what I mean by that is you're asking questions, you're gathering information, you're trying to understand what their business is, you're trying to understand how much this problem actually means to them, what happens if they don't do anything or they don't solve this problem. Is it going to mean lost dollars? They're going to have to fire people. They're not going to be able to raise money at the valuation they thought. It's going to have to get a second job. So there's always like a psychological financial problem that is associated with them pursuing you as a solution. And it's your job to uncover what that is in the most empathetic way possible and the least, I guess, I don't know how to say this, the least aggressive way possible. And I think it's difficult to become comfortable with asking questions while your prospect is just waiting for you to demo their solution and say, can you just show me the product? Can you just show me the product? But how you solve for that is by having a strong upfront contract. And what I mean by that is, if I jumped on this call today and said, all right, so who are your customers? And how much do you charge? And when do you want to have this solution implemented by? They're just going to, be like, oh, I'm a little turned off here. Can you just show me the product before I give all this information away? Because they feel as though you're attacking them. But if you jump on the call and say, hi, my name's Ryan. I'm, here from the DMZ. My job here today is to learn a little bit more about what you do, and what I hope to accomplish today is see if there's a fit between the problems that you're trying to solve and what our company does. The worst thing I'd want to do is waste some time showing you something that doesn't matter. So if it's not a huge deal, I'd love to ask you a few questions. And then once we get into that, I'll show you how the product works. Does that sound good? And once you've given them the idea of how the call will go and what the purpose of the meeting will be and what the agenda is, there's this psychological hack that is employed where, if they agree, they now do not want to go back on their word and will allow you to ask your questions without interruption or without them feeling like they're being attacked. So there's this psychology of like a verbal agreement that if people agree verbally, they don't want to go back on their word. But the other thing that happens here is that it gives you a platform to go back on, and you can always reroute if things get off track. And what I mean by that is, if a prospect says, I'm tired of these questions, can you just like demo the product? Or I don't feel like these questions matter. You would say something like, well, I thought we agreed at the beginning of the call that this is how the call was going to go. You said that was okay. Do you mind if I just ask a couple more questions? Because it's going to really affect how the demo process goes. So there's always, it's never going to be perfect, but again, you're increasing the likelihood of you getting to the end result that you want. So, sorry, I'm just going to take a sip of water here. Once you do run a discovery process and you ask them the questions they need, you gather the ammo that is necessary to effectively run the demo that you need to run. You've gathered ammo and almost backed them into a corner, knowing that what you're going to show them solves the problem that they need. If you haven't run a successful discovery process, you can be demoing hundreds and hundreds of features about your product. You could be going into like a feature function rabbit hole where they're just say, okay, show me this, show me how to save it here, show me how to export, show me how to do, and you're just like becoming a demo monkey rather than offering up the opportunity to show what the solution would look like in their hands. So you're always referencing the pain that you uncovered in the discovery process and trying to highlight what your solution can do to solve that problem. And if you run a strong discovery process, you may even get up into situations where they only need 2 or 3 things that your product does for them to decide to buy. Like it could be that your product does a million things and they're only interested in 2 of them. And if you didn't ask them what those 2 things are or what's important to them or what problems they're trying to solve, you can get a situation where you're spending 30 minutes demoing something that doesn't really matter, when really 2 things would have been able to seal the deal. And I think the notion that you're trying to get across here in your demo is you're not selling your product. You're selling their vision. And you're only able to understand their vision if you've run a strong discovery process. And you want them to feel as though they fully understand what it would be like with your solution in their hands. So this is obviously comes with practice, but demoing is a time suck for sure. A lot of folks think, I've demoed, 50 times, it's not working, but are you demoing the things that they want or the things that you want to show and the things that you're proud of? There's a big difference. So you don't want to get into a situation where you're just wasting your time demoing and you think like, you tell your investors or you tell your team like, we're running all these demos and it's not converting, but are you running the demos that matter is I guess the golden ticket there. So once you run a demo and you've shown them what they need to see, again, start the negotiation process with an upfront contract. What's the goal of this negotiation call? What you're trying to do is connect the dots. So you understood from the discovery process how much solving this problem will mean to them. And then you've shown them the product and you've understood that what you're showing them solves the problem. So then it's a question of you coming to an agreement that what you're solving and how you're solving it and how much it's going to impact their business justifies the price that you're charging. And it always should. There's obviously some like ROI metrics that you can put in place to help them understand that they're getting a 3x or 5x or 10x return on their time or their money. But you should always be tying back your negotiation to the return on investment and figuring out why price is an issue, if it is. Is it timing? Is it price? Are there other issues at play? So if you've done a strong discovery process and you understand that the product is going to save them $50,000 a year and your product only costs 10, and then in negotiation, when your product costs 10, they ask for a discount to 8. Like, I thought we agreed that this is going to be a $50,000 impact on the business. So is price really the issue here? So that's only possible with a really strong discovery process and a demo process that fits their needs. And then another thing that I like to do is to avoid getting into a legal negotiation is to send a draft or stock proposal early. So just a blank proposal without their numbers in it, so that if they need to redline anything or if they need to edit anything or there's any terms that may stand out, you can get ahead of it. I always like to send a proposal that they can read so that before I move a deal to the proposal stage, just because I want a deal to be in the proposal stage for a shortest amount of time as possible. It should be just a signature at that point. It shouldn't be negotiating. And we'll get into sort of like some strategies around proposals now. Are there any other questions, Shane?
Nothing so far, unless people want to take an opportunity to jump in with anything that may have come up.
Lots of smart folks here. I love it.
Maybe
Oh, cool.
I'll jump in with a question that I think I see a lot of founders struggle with is, and you touched on it a little bit, of when you get into the demo, you're very excited and proud about showing off every single bell and whistle, and oftentimes it's too much and it just confuses whoever it is you're talking to, or you're talking about the left thing when they really care about the right thing. How do you determine, what are the actual features that you should be showing, and what are the ones that maybe aren't actually that important to go over to make sure that your demo is resonating with this prospect?
Just ask them. So when we spoke last, you said that XYZ and ABC were important to you. So our product does a lot, but in the effort of saving you time, I want to lead with showing you how these two problems can get solved. And if there's anything else that you want to see, let me know. But in an effort to save time, let's go over those two things. But I'm pretty sure having done extensive research into the industry, that we can do what every other product does. But I want to make sure that these two things, these unique selling proposition items of our product, are shown to you immediately. Is that okay? And then they'll tell you, yes, it's okay, or yeah, but can you also show me this, 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 and then you're in the driver's seat again. So there's no golden answer for you. There's no bulletproof method. It's all about conversation.
I have a question, Ryan.
Yep.
If you do the demo,
yeah,
and the demo is supposed to replace a trial account, for example, so what you would do at the end of the demo, if you feel that they responded positively to the areas and features that you show them, would you try to press them to sign up on the spot, or?
So you may be surprised to hear this, but Salesforce, notorious for offering a free trial. Our data shows that customers convert more highly if they have not used the trial.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So it's in your best interest to use an analogy like, I can give you access to the trial, but that's kind of like handing a Ferrari to a 5-year-old. it can do a lot of things, but without your data in there, without your process in place, it's not going to be of value. So it might make more sense for me to demo how this product works and show you how it can function, keeping in mind some of the problems that you're trying to solve. And then if a trial is what you need to get buy-in internally, we can do that. But what we've typically seen is that once we showcase these items, it's going to be sufficient for you to, make a buying decision. Does that answer your question, or is that sort of not what's been happening for you?
No. I've seen it a lot. And I've seen also with some products that we requested a demo. The salesperson after the demo suggested, go ahead, open the account, and let's meet next week after you enter the data, and I'll go with you over to make sure that you are using it right. And
yeah, that's a strategy as well. But if you're trying to run that play, you run yourself into the risk of it being a week and them not having done anything, and them using that demo as a way to kick the tires, saying, "Oh, I'll get to it next week. I haven't had time.
Not a demo.
And
to ask them to open a paid account. No, a paid account.
Okay, got it.
A paid account, and we will help you get going the first steps to make sure you are doing it right.
Yeah, I love that. I love the hand-guided implementation through a paid process is way better than a trial. Always lean toward the paid option. Maybe even strategizing around how if you do pay, you get resources from our team to help you implement, but with a trial, you'll never get the data uploaded in the way that you need.
Yeah.
So that there was another question there.
Yeah. So when you do a demo with a customer, and after the demo, sometimes you get the customer saying, okay, let me go back and think about it, and then I'll get back to you. I know that you usually want to be able to get commitment and move the conversation forward. So what should you be saying or doing at those end of the demos where the customer wants to go back and make decisions?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be a dictator and force your process down their throat. You still have to be a human being, and other people, want to have some control and some say as well. So in that event, I think it's fine, but you should always just plan to have a next step to follow up, saying, rather than saying, I'll get back to you in a week, to say, cool, so it's Monday now. Is it okay if we put something on the calendar for Friday at 2 p.m. so that I can give you a call and we can talk about how the week has been, or what feedback you got, or if there's any decisions you made? So just to have some next step in the calendar and put an agenda in place for what that next step will entail would help you in that scenario. Cool. So sending a proposal is always tricky. When we started at Growth Genius, we struggled with only 50% of our proposals here or there converting. And we didn't know why. People said they were interested, but we were sending them too early. We were afraid of asking them what needed to happen in order for this to close. So say, if they're going to start in a month, between now and a month, what needed to happen internally for that sort of deal to get closed? They need to get an approval from finance. They needed to get the CEO's signature. They needed to, let the team know of the changes. They needed to cancel their other subscription to what they were paying for. They needed to implement. So figuring out a close plan that made sense with them, and then realizing that, okay, well, if in order to make that a reality, we have to get this done today, can really help. So a mutual close plan is something that you can Google to figure out how to guide your prospects through the buying process. Another thing we want to do here is book a call for proposal. So if you send a proposal, you don't want to be in a position where you're just twirling your thumbs waiting for a response. If they ask for a proposal, you can say, I'm assuming this means you're ready to go. What I'd love to do is write up a proposal for you, and then we'll jump on a quick call and I'll walk you through it. And if you have any questions, you can ask me in real time. And then at the end of the call, we can understand who's signing it, who it needs to be sent to, and I can send that over to them if there are no other issues. And then once you have that call, at the end of it, if they've agreed to everything in the proposal, it should be easy for them to sign. And you can ask, so I'm assuming based on everything we've talked about, this is a go and you're just waiting for signatures, or let me know if there's anything else in the process that needs to happen. So it's not ironclad again, but what you're doing is maintaining control. The last thing you want is to be in a position at the end of the sales cycle where you're relinquishing control and you're twirling your thumbs, waiting for a response. That is the, not the strong man's approach or the strong woman's approach to getting the deal closed. And if you run that effectively, you're trying to get to a point where at least 75% of your proposals that are sent out are closing. We got it to around 90% at Growth Genius, just because we made sure that we weren't approving proposals to be sent out unless like certain boxes were checked in terms of the deal stage cycle. So you want to always think about removing friction. This process in the proposal stage tends to be the most painful and hard to get perfect, but you'll get to a point where it sort of it runs smooth. And once you're selling frequently and sending out multiple proposals, you have a large pipeline of deals. Thinking about the process in these stages allows you to run some probabilities on how many deals you're going to close and how much revenue you're going to generate. And it wouldn't make sense if 10% of your prospects get on the phone and 50% of your, once you connect, you only get 50% of them to agree to discovery call, and then you're getting all the way to stage 6 and you're sending out proposals and only 50% of them are converting. Like, what a waste of time and energy once you've done all those other 5 or 6 steps, when that is something that if you optimize can lead to a doubling of your chances of revenue. So that's sort of like a primer on how this sort of goes. And if you think about your current sales process, some of the challenges that you're facing, it generally would fit into some of these or one of these buckets, and would love to explore these in more detail with all of you folks over the next 18 months. So there's time for questions. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in or if we can end early, but I'm here for you.
Ryan, I guess we'll have some time to talk more about this. But when building out your sales process, how do you factor in influencers who are not budget holders, but you need to talk to through that sales process?
Yeah, I would think that before COVID, this analogy made more sense, but the proverbial water cooler, what your goal is, ultimate victory would be to have them, your team of stakeholders, talking about you when you're not there. So if you think about how you can reference the fact that you're speaking to one person to reach out to another person, or to let the decision maker know that the influencer recommended you speak to this person, or if you're using the influencer as the champion and making them feel empowered as though their lives are going to be better, or they're going to get a promotion, or they're going to look great if they do some internal selling for you. So there are strategies around, how to help somebody be an internal champion for you. There are ways to think about how to ask for nice and kind introductions to the decision makers. And sometimes it's even a question of going straight to the top and messaging the CEO and asking the CEO to delegate for you. CEOs are master delegators. So if you message the CEO saying, this is typically a marketing problem, who in marketing should I speak to about this? They can find that person for you. And they're more than happy to, it's easy, you're making it easier for them to respond if they just have to CC somebody and be like, please see JD's email. Cool.
I have another question, back to the demo. We are a SaaS, $50 to $500 per month. That's basically our offering. If we have a customer that it's a small shop, 2-3 people, I would say close them during the demo if you can. Large companies where there are a lot of teams involved, then a proposal, a demo negotiation proposal would make sense. But I have the feeling that when we deal with a small, with one person, basically, he's also on the demo, is the decision maker. So try to close during the demo.
Yeah, I think that's great. If your situation allows for it, time kills all deals. So the faster you can get them to make a decision, the better. One thing that I'd like to do, or I think is pretty cool from like a product-led growth standpoint, would be to show them a demo and try to close them. And if they don't, link them to a trial that is time bound. So say it's a 14-day trial. What you can do is offer a small discount. Say, easy example would be 14% off if they sign up on the first day. And for every day that they wait, they lose 1% of discount. So I know that Process Street did a really good job of getting us to buy quickly because we wanted to save money by putting us through that trial process. But that's a way that you can automate urgency without effort on your part, for example.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
I think, you want, again, I think about you're trying to maximize the utility of your time, and you want to make sure that you're not spending, an hour, 2 hours of your week trying to get one user deals closed. If there's a way to think about how to get 500 one user deals, I would gladly do it at a 14% discount if it didn't require any effort on my part. I think all of you would as well. Cool. Well, I think that's time, Shane.
Yeah, and if that's everything, we'll wrap up the presentation here. And so for a lot of you, I think we've already kind of reached out to say if Ryan's going to be kind of working and helping to support you over the course of the next few months. And I think, Ryan's skill set definitely can help you with your sales process, your email copy. I think one of the things that can be really beneficial for a lot of you to do is if you're able to record any of your demos or calls, kind of replaying them back and kind of talking about what worked, what didn't work. It's certainly a strategy that I've seen a lot of companies use quite effectively. And I think that's one of the areas that Ryan could definitely help out with too, is kind of, doing a review or a debrief from any calls you may do to kind of talk about where it worked and where it potentially didn't work. And Ryan, just for everyone's benefit, I think it's every Wednesday that we have you available to work with folks.
Yeah, for the time being, it's every Wednesday. And I think I'm pretty full until the end of September, but lots of spots in October.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks, Ryan. And thanks everyone for joining today.